And they are. But hey, no complaints here. And I saw that you were kind of having a question frenzy or something.
Yeah, oh
So
yeah, did you get? I'm sorry, you're probably on the follow on that, so you're.
no, it goes to my other email, not my business
Okay,
email. No worries.
okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I did a uh, I did a Twitch stream yesterday on the Postman Twitch stream, and it was building an open API from scratch. So starting
Mm.
with just open API colon 3.00 and just started writing it out. And so I had a lot of my mind as far as answering people's questions when it came to the spec itself. So I just kind of got on there
Yeah.
and started. So hey, welcome, John. Uh, John Banning is from our solutions group at Postman. So welcome. I'm glad you could make it.
Thanks. Yeah, glad I did too. I might drop off a little early. I do a demo in an hour, so
No worries. We're here.
cool.
Cool. And there's Jeremy too. Sweet. Awesome.
Hey.
Welcome, Jeremy. Hope you had a good week. All right. Well, let's kick things off for the video so that when people tune in, they know what's going on. So welcome again. The API Specification Toolbox kind of weekly conference, open office hours. Excuse me, I got conference on the brain. We're just all gathering to try to gather as many ideas as we can about what we can do to increase awareness and understanding of API specifications like Open API, async, JSON schema, Postman collections, and whatnot. And we just kind of gather around this GitHub repo. Whoops, I'm not sharing my screen, am I? Do this every week. I don't know if I get that right. I think the screen capture will have it, but you guys won't see it. Come on. All right. Here we go again.
There we go.
So we gather around this GitHub repo, which is kind of the homepage for the gathering, just kind of outlining what it is we're doing, some of the ideas that we've come up with, and some of the ideas that are in motion. And then we've got a handful of separate projects, and I haven't added questions to this. I'll add that to the list. But we just kind of come together and talk about what's possible and what we can do and see what's cooking up. And what we were just kind of talking about when everyone jumped on is we've been gathering questions around around Open API, Async API, and just really trying to tackle some of these questions and answer them in our own way, in different ways. We answer them with video, but I think answering them via blog posts and other formats is just as acceptable. But I started by seeding it with one or two questions, but then Maruka went in and she answered quite a few, or put quite a few new ones up that I thought were really interesting. So I kind of want to open up the floor. I mean, we can I wanted to lead off with questions because that's what we were doing last time, but we can open up the floor to just kind of what's everyone working on, what's cooking. No one wants to jump in and go first? Well, I will continue from the questions that Ruka put on there because I think this is pretty interesting. I like this one. This was going in a category that I didn't think of kind of taking it. Is Open API safe to use? Which is, I think, a pretty interesting one. But I like that you're going kind of interoperability between the specs. And you just kind of started pushing it out of the bounds of just Open API, which I think is good. And then you can
I kind of picked up from the discussion actually most of the questions, and I think that actually last time it was a really great thing that we had those we started from a very, very simple question: what is an Open API? And then we kind of discussed that what is the difference between 2.0 and 3.0, and I think that already proved that discussion that these questions may seem simple, but they absolutely are not simple. I mean, we had to all discuss these topics.
So I wanted to learn a little bit more about your process. Like which one did you create the video for?
Yeah, it's actually, I think it's already maybe the next page, because there was that what is an open API? That was the first
Yeah, that
one.
was the first one. So
Yeah,
that's going to be all the way down now because
they are sorted now somehow. Yeah, okay, that one. And then here you had created the video first, and we discussed that last time.
yeah.
And we kind of came to the maybe 30-second first, and maybe something longer than possibly. So I kind of test drove this one,
Let me look.
and then I made another one for one of the other questions, but I haven't addressed the other ones yet.
So I want to see how long was my video. I can't remember now. So
It was about 7-ish minutes or something.
Yeah, I think the first one was 7 minutes.
Okay.
No, I re-recorded it and I got it down to 4, but I still wasn't happy with it. And then yours was,
Mine is the 30-second.
yeah, yours is I think a much nicer sound bite. So yeah, yours is much shorter at 30 seconds. So I like that. I'm gonna try to do that because I just don't think the longer format. We'll see. We'll see what people. So
we'll see, and I think that it's important to kind of like some people like very concise, and some people will need the longer explanation. But on the other hand, the shorter is kind of quicker to make, although sometimes a bit more difficult to kind of put together first as an idea. But at least that gives some level of experience, and kind of you can test.
Yeah, and so I like the multiple answers for a question because I really think this is kind of the future of answering people's questions. Not, people may respect one person differently, different brands, different vendors, the length of it, the polish, the approach. Some days I'm good at distilling things down into a really concise answer, but some days I'm just really verbose. So I like this format. I would love to keep figuring out how do we surface these, because like you did a good job on social media and on LinkedIn, and I tried to amplify that. I want to keep figuring out that piece. But I also, last night I took a crack at starting to organize these because, of course, they're all questions, but I started breaking them down by different areas and what they're addressing. I did a lot that were really core spec questions. So if it's directly related to the schema, how do I add properties to my schema? How do I make things required? I'm going to crank through and answer these and hope to get down to my 30-second level or down to a more concise time frame, but then get much better at kind of whipping through them and answering them. So yeah, that's, I think I'm pretty excited about this because the organization of it, I'm open to thoughts on how to better surface this once we get more videos in here. But one of the things is I would like to maybe add a HTML landing page to this repo and try to make them a little bit more browsable, the ones that have answers, and then the ones that need answering, try to highlight those a little bit better. And then when there's a video or multiple videos, let's just show the embed of the video rather than just a link. So I'm going to play around with that. Any other thoughts?
I kind of think, because you can do this whole Jekyll thing with repos and also just the GitHub pages, but it would be kind of cool to have them as a YAML or JSON file, and just use that to generate the site automatically, because that's pretty simple to do if you know what you're doing with Jekyll, for example.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do with. I have a single page app template that's, I consider it to be as minimal Jekyll as possible. The goal is to not confuse people, because sometimes when you're first diving into Jekyll it can be confusing, but keep it as minimal as possible, but 100% running on GitHub. So I'll stand that up, and then I'm gonna write a Postman collection that will pull these questions from the GitHub issues and then update that YAML. I gotta still work out on the video, how it parses out the videos and those pieces, and then goes, identifies if it's ready for being added to that question list or not. I got to think about that, but because I would like to automate that. I would like to just have these questions, keep using issues as the kind of seed, let people work from the questions here, paste the video or any links here, and then we'll just harvest them and publish them to a YAML on a monitor on a regular basis.
Sounds doable. I mean, there will be some issues, but it shouldn't be anything that a lot of parsing shouldn't solve. So
yeah, so I'm trying to keep them just the question in here, and then I didn't put any like body for most of them. And then if I post a video, I'll just post the link to it here, and then we should be able to reconstruct like embed scripts and whatnot. But yeah. I'm really curious to see. I also did a API governance webinar. I think it was last week. I can't remember now. Yeah, I think it was last week. But it had we get a lot of questions in I think I had about 1,000 people there, and get a lot of questions in the Q&A, and then I get that list of questions back as a spreadsheet, and I'm going through that right now, pulling out questions that people actually asked about OpenAPI and governance, and pull it into this. So
I actually continued on the pulling stuff with API. Like I collected stuff from Twitter with Zapier to a Google Sheet.
Really?
About OpenAPI, but there are problems. Like, for example, using Swagger as a term is completely out of though, because Swagger has other connotations. So you should like even the hashtag. So basically, it's like only OpenAPI would be the real thing to use, and that gives very little results, or at least very little newbie results. So I need to kind of figure out a little bit more about that. But it does work a little bit better with like, combining it, of course, with like Swagger and API, OpenAPI brings better results, but trying to find the proper thing.
Yeah, TweetDeck, as far as being an app, is kind of a piece of junk sometimes. But yeah, I regularly monitor the OpenAPI, and look, there you are. And then Swagger API, but I've got several filters. I'm filtering by language, and then I'm gonna set up other when I come up with other things that kind of are help with the filtering process. So maybe we can work on that to come up with
that needs to be done, because otherwise it's like everything from marketing Swagger to like whatever. So.
Yeah, but everything so I'd like to set up I have a Postman collection that pulls these, and I would like to start, this was my goal with the Twitter account that I set up for this. When I see something that's OpenAPI related, that's relevant, it's got an interesting link, and it's usually by an interesting company, I tweet it with the Twitter account, or I retweet it with the Twitter account for this meeting, and then I'm going to start parsing those Twitter handles from those so I'm wondering if there's other ways we can start parsing questions and flagging them, at least just for review, and make it easier so that we can kind of come up with a list of questions. So I'll play around with that and see what we can do. So yeah, the question thing feels good. What I like about the question thing is because it's, I think I've already reached a level again where there's a lot of information, and new people come in here and go, oh, this is like overwhelming, where do I start? But it's very modular, meaning you can just dive into a question that you want to answer. So if we can make it, if people are too afraid to come into, like a bunch of different issues, that's why I want to make the single page landing that makes it a little bit friendlier for people to get in and realize they can answer questions. But hopefully it's a way that people can feel like they can contribute, even just in 30-second snippets. And then that's why I just started doing the labeling, is because I really feel this is the beginning of kind of the education stuff, and how we can start identifying and building curriculum based upon actual, what people are needing to know out there.
And I think we should figure out if some of the questions, for example, like I was doing like more of these questions that need to be actually kind of that they are not so directly answerable. Like they need a little bit of discussion.
Yeah.
They have opinions attached to them in some ways, even though they have also that kind of straightforward answer to it. Well, at least on some level. But then there are those questions that you posted which are kind of like very detailed, and they will come up. But on the other hand, for example, for the status questions, for the rest of you also, that do you think that it's enough to have like, okay, how do I add a specific status code into my API, or actually does that 500 in the question actually have that like open up the discussion on why do you need to have the status code 500 there, which is a good question. It's not the spec question directly, but it is a very good question on API design, and not everyone knows the answer to that. So it's just I'm bringing this kind of like theoretically up into the air, because these are the things that we'll need to end up figuring out when we are kind of trying to figure out the questions there, or at least combine them or something.
Well, I think we can keep using Git or GitHub for that. As far as linking questions together and have them be their issues, and so we can kind of daisy chain them together and have them grouped. Let's play around with that, because I think that's really an interesting discussion, because definitely the status code, but like you said, there's some of these, like how do I validate my API is in accordance with the Open API spec. So many different ways you could do that, many different tools.